Good morning and welcome to the Better Thyself edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. This word today is the word of distrust. There's no trust anywhere. So much so that the spouses don't trust each other. Children don't trust the parents. Parents don't trust the children. Friends don't trust anybody. Who knows? The friend of today might be a snake in the grass, ready to bite you. This era of doubt, this atmosphere of distrust is in fact destroying the human psyche. You always look before and after. You don't know from where the blow would come. You have innermost thoughts, feelings, emotions. You have pains and pleasures and you want to share. Pleasures you can still share. But the only risk is rising the sense of jealousy. But the biggest problem is when you have a secret and you want to trust somebody. You do not know how to trust. Is it really difficult to identify people who are trustworthy? You would say yes. I would say no. Throughout my life, I have been able to trust people. It's a selection of the people. It's a selection process which makes you rely on some. You need some confidante. It might be your spouse. It might be your best friend. It might be your child. But it's always possible to identify the people whom you can trust. So there is one quality which if you find in the people can assure you that you can trust that person. That person who has this quality which I'm going to talk about is always trustworthy. I know when I tell you the qualities, you will have a shock. But that's a reality. The bottom line is that when deciding in whom to place trust the person who is guilt prone. A person who is possibly psychologically, emotionally, intellectually inclined to be a victim of guilt complex is the most trustworthy person. When it comes to predicting who is most likely to act in a trustworthy manner, one of the most important factors is anticipation of guilt. A person who doesn't feel guilty ever, whatever he might do, cannot be trustworthy. Trait fact predictor of trustworthy intentions and behavior are always identifiable and they provide the practical advice, basically. A person's tendency to anticipate feeling guilt is guilt proneness. And this, as I said, is the strongest predictor of how trustworthy that person can be. More so than a variety of personality traits. I know the life coaches, the guru, the psychologists, the religious leaders, hundreds of the traits which are identification of trustworthy person, but you would find most of them are like colossus with the feet of clay. They are not reliable traits. The people talk of these personality traits: extroversion, openness, agreeable, neuroticism, conscientiousness. You trust okay. Now let's take, most people say a person who's conscientious would be trustworthy. But imagine, I'm giving you a case study. You have committed a crime and you go and tell a friend of yours that you have committed a crime. Now there are two options for him, either to go to the police against you or not to go. If he's conscientious, he would decide, well, look here, I have got to uphold the law. So he might not go to the police, but he might tell somebody else who will go to the police. Because conscientiousness makes him sure he is not trustworthy. Do you know that according to Dante in his Inferno, he says that a person who betrays a friend with the plea that he is protecting his country goes to the lowest level of hell. That is it. Now, don't forget that guilt proneness and guilt, they are two different things. Guilt elicits a behavior following a transgression. You have done something wrong and you feel guilty about it. The guilt is a reaction to something wrong already done. Guilt proneness reflects the anticipation of guilt over wrongdoing and causes people to avoid transgression in the first place. If I betray the trust, would I be honest? If I betray the trust, would I not be liar or a cheat? Would I be a good friend? So guilt prone would consider in those terms. The anticipation of guilt would be a barrier to his betraying the trust. Now, most of the people cannot understand that the guilt is, as I said, a reaction. But a person who is really good, who has a tendency towards feeling guilty if something wrong is done, would always avoid the occasion of being guilty. And what better occasion than not to betray the trust? I have in my life seen people who are guilt prone because they have a greater sense of interpersonal responsibility. When you entrust any secret to them, any confidant, they become your confidante. And such people do not express the trust placed on them by you. You know, and this has been psychologically proved as well. In some half a dozen research studies, it has been seen that economic gains and surveys have been done to find out the trustworthiness, behavior, and intentions. And individuals in these 6 researches in different universities all over the world who scored high in the personality trait of guilt proneness returned money which they had borrowed to others, but the individuals who had scored low in the guilt proneness did not return money. Say, what happened was they gave money to the people, and the people who were guilt prone, that if I don't return the money, people will think I'm a cheat. Would this man trust me again? If I do not, and then what is the end of keeping the money? Is it really conscientious? Is it not betraying the trust? Can I do it? And then does ill-gotten money not bring bad effects? So all these feelings of guilt proneness come flooding. But the person who is not guilt prone would say, why is money? What difference does it make? So this is essentially a guilt prone person is trying to avoid a situation where he can feel guilty. And since he'll avoid the situation of feeling guilty, he would not betray your trust. That is why you can always depend on a guilt-prone person, but not on a guilty person. Individuals, any individual is primed to behave responsibly as a result of reading a code of conduct, would follow the code of conduct. Because the code of conduct ensures that you are guilt prone. And you don't, and nobody wants to be guilty, feel guilty. So they avoid the occasion of feeling guilty. Trust and trustworthiness are two things. And they're very important for effective relationship, individually as well as in organizations. And all of us incur heavy costs in identifying people who are trustworthy, both in relationships and, as I said, in organizations. So the substantial literature on trust by deepening of our understanding of trustworthiness. And that has shown, my own experience has shown. I mean, so we had a lot of time. People say, well, he's a very honest man. He's a very conscientious man. I said, no. What would be his reaction if he does something wrong? That's what I'm more interested in. And believe me, whenever I depended on the people who are guilt prone, I was sure that my secrets would be preserved, and they were. It's very unusual. The existing people believe that people trust each other automatically, and the person who is normally looking to be extrovert would not be trustworthy. But a person who keeps quiet, who doesn't talk, who doesn't intervene, can be trustworthy. It can be the other way around. An extrovert can be guilt prone. He's enjoying life. But he says, well, look here, if I betrayed that trust, would I be able to enjoy life? And that constable placed inside you, what we call conscience, identifies a punishment for a transgression. And betraying a trust is the biggest transgression that can be there for a guilt-prone person. So if you want your employees to be worthy of trust, make sure that they are personally responsible for their behavior and teach them, if they don't know it, that they are expected to feel guilty about wrongdoing. What happens is, right from the childhood, we are not allowed to feel guilty. When something wrong happens, doesn't matter, child, don't do it again. That's what happens normally. And especially the mothers of the toddlers are always saying, well, it has happened. Children would do it. As in India, what happened when the rapes were being done. One of the premiers of a state said, boys would do it. So the guilt proneness is not there. The sense of personal responsibility is not there. And since that is not there, they cannot be trustworthy. Let people learn from the childhood that there are consequences of every action, that every transgression, every betrayal is fraught with danger. And the consequences may be immediate, may be delayed, but they would be there. And once a person develops this sense of guilt proneness, well, I would be guilty in case I do this. I've seen people, they will not tell a lie because they say we are guilty. How would we face ourselves? I myself, as I told you, when I get up in the morning and look at the mirror, I look at myself in the eyes and say, did I do something wrong? Can I look at myself in the eyes and say, yes, I've been honest, I've been authentic? And if I can look at myself, I'm not guilty. And if somebody entrusts a secret to me, and the positions that I were, I know the secrets are still lying buried in my heart. There's a sense of responsibility and retribution. A guilt-prone person is always suffering from the possibility of retribution. The retribution can be legal, social, or moral, but whatever it's there. And that's a daunting task to betray that, to get away from that tradition. So, if you have a secret, don't trust anybody except a person who has a tendency to feel guilty later on. Because if he has a tendency to feel guilty or is guilt prone, he would not, in all probability, betray your trust. And you can depend on that. Thank you.